When words fail, love finds a way. Elena Carter smoothed the crease from her navy blouse, a small ritual she always performed before meeting a new client. It wasn't vanity, it was about calmness, presentation, offering a sense of steady professionalism. Most of her clients came to her carrying invisible weight, and her job was to make them feel safe enough to set it down, even for an hour. She glanced at the file in front of her. Harper Lewis. Age, 29. Stroke patient. History, stubborn, fiercely independent. Elena smiled faintly at the notes left by the neurologist. Stubborn wasn't a diagnosis, it was a shield. The door opened with a hesitant push. Harper stepped in, tall and lean, her posture betraying both strength and discomfort. Her auburn hair was pulled into a messy bun, and her sharp green eyes flicked quickly around the room before landing on Elena. "Harper?" Elena asked gently, standing. A beat of silence. Harper's lips moved, slowly, deliberately. "Why, yes." The word came out jagged, halting. Harper's jaw clenched at the sound, as if embarrassed by her own voice. Elena offered a warm smile, softening the moment. "Welcome. Please, sit anywhere you like." Harper dropped into the chair opposite her, folding her arms tightly across her chest. For a while, the only sound was the ticking of the wall clock. Elena let the silence linger, it was important not to rush. Finally, Harper exhaled sharply and muttered, "This is dumb." Elena tilted her head. "What feels dumb?" Another pause. Harper's eyes flickered with frustration. She tapped her temple, then her mouth. "Me." The word cracked, raw and broken. Elena leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. "You are not dumb. You've had something taken from you, but you're here, ready to fight for it back. That isn't weakness, that's strength." For a second, Harper's mask slipped. Vulnerability flashed across her face, quickly hidden by a wry smirk. "You talk too much," she said, the syllables slow, but clear enough. Elena laughed softly, the sound easing the tension. "Fair point. How about I let you do the talking, and I just listen?" Harper's lips twitched, almost a smile. She shook her head, but some of the tightness in her shoulders eased. The session continued with simple exercises, sound repetitions, breathing techniques, small victories Harper dismissed but Elena quietly celebrated. Beneath the stubborn exterior, Elena saw flashes of wit, of resilience, of someone who refused to be defeated. When the hour ended, Harper stood abruptly, tugging at her jacket sleeve. "See you, next week." Her voice was strained, but the words were hers. As the door closed, Elena found herself still smiling. Against her better judgment, she was already looking forward to their next session. The second session began with the sound of rain streaking down the clinic's windows, the kind of gray drizzle that made the world feel smaller and quieter. Elena glanced at the clock as Harper entered, her jacket damp, her expression stormy enough to rival the weather outside. Harper didn't bother with a greeting. She dropped into the chair, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the table. "Rough morning?" Elena asked gently. Harper's jaw tightened. "I can't do this." Her voice cracked, uneven. She slapped her palm against the notebook Elena had given her the week before, where she was meant to jot down words she practiced. It was almost empty. Elena folded her hands on the desk. "You can. It just feels impossible right now." "No," Harper snapped, the words sharp, her breath ragged. "I'm broken." The silence that followed was heavy. Elena let it sit, studying Harper, the fierce set of her shoulders, the trembling in her hands, the frustration burning behind her green eyes. Finally, Elena stood and moved from behind her desk, choosing the chair beside Harper instead. Close enough to feel present, not so close as to crowd. "Harper," she said softly, "your brain has been through a storm. But you're still here. You walked in, you sat down, you're trying. That isn't broken. That's survival." Harper's eyes flicked toward her, a mixture of anger and something more fragile. She shook her head, lips pressed tight. Elena reached for the notebook, flipping it open to the single word Harper had written in bold, shaky letters, voice. Elena tapped it gently. This matters. You chose this word. Why? Harper swallowed hard. Her lips moved slowly, carefully. Because, it's gone. Elena felt a tight ache in her chest. It's not gone. It's waiting. And we'll find it together. One piece at a time. For a long moment, Harper stared at her. Then, to Elena's surprise, Harper let out a short laugh, rough around the edges but genuine. You are too optimistic. Elena grinned. I've been accused of that before. The tension between them eased. The rest of the session was still difficult, stumbles, pauses, Harper's temper flaring, but there were also small victories. She managed a full sentence without stopping, I want water. It was simple, but when she said it, Elena clapped her hands and smiled so brightly Harper couldn't help but smirk in return. By the time Harper left that day, her shoulders were looser, her expression softer. She turned at the door and managed, in her halting rhythm. Not dumb. Elena's smile lingered long after she was gone. Elena was stacking therapy cards into neat piles when she heard Harper's uneven footsteps approaching. The woman always moved with a kind of determined impatience, as if the world couldn't quite keep up with her. Morning, Elena greeted, looking up. Harper gave a short nod. Hi. The word was clearer this time, though the H caught in her throat. Elena smiled. That's progress. Harper rolled her eyes, though a faint flush colored her cheeks. Small steps make big journeys, Elena replied. Harper sat, tapping her fingers restlessly against the table. For a few moments, Elena guided her through breathing and rhythm exercises. Harper stumbled, cursed under her breath, then tried again. Each time she faltered, she grew more tense. Finally, Harper shoved the flashcards aside. I was better, she snapped, her voice cracking. Before I sang. Elena froze, then leaned in, curiosity piqued. You sang? Harper nodded stiffly. Music. Guitar. Voice. She swallowed hard. Gone. The room felt charged. Elena could see the pain in Harper's eyes, not just at the words she struggled to form but at the memory of a self she no longer believed existed. You still have it, Elena said softly. Your voice isn't gone, it's waiting for you to trust it again. Music is rhythm, sound, breath. Therapy can be too. We can use it. Harper looked at her skeptically. You think everything is possible. Elena chuckled. Not everything. But more than you think. For the first time, Harper's lips curved into a genuine smile. Small, fleeting, but real. They spent the rest of the session trying humming exercises, simple notes strung together. Harper was hesitant at first, embarrassed, but when a faint melody filled the air, Elena couldn't help but beam. That's beautiful, she whispered. Harper's cheeks flushed again. She shook her head, muttering, messy. Beautiful, Elena insisted, her gaze soft. For a heartbeat, their eyes held, Harper's green, stormy and searching, Elena's steady, warm. Something unspoken passed between them before Harper quickly looked away, breaking the spell. At the end of the hour, Harper lingered at the door. Her voice, though halting, carried a thread of vulnerability. Thank you. Elena's chest tightened. Anytime, Harper. I'll see you Thursday. As the door clicked shut, Elena sat back in her chair, pulse quickening. She told herself it was pride in Harper's progress. But the warmth lingering inside her felt like something more. The clinic was unusually quiet that afternoon, the hallways echoing faintly with the buzz of fluorescent lights. Elena was locking up her office when she spotted Harper in the lobby. She was leaning against the wall, jacket draped over her arm, eyes fixed on her phone as if daring it to behave. Elena hesitated, then called softly, "Harper?" Harper looked up, startled, then quickly pocketed her phone. "You're done?" "Yes," Elena said, slipping her bag over her shoulder. "Heading home." "You?" Harper shifted uncomfortably, her lips working around the words. "Bus, late." Outside, rain had just stopped, leaving the pavement glistening beneath streetlights. Elena's heart tugged. She could walk away, keep the boundary neat and tidy. But the image of Harper waiting alone in the damp lobby stirred something protective in her. "Would you like some company while you wait?" Elena asked carefully. "There's a cafe around the corner. Warm, good coffee." For a long moment, Harper just stared at her. Elena could almost see the debate flicker across her features, the instinct to stay guarded, and the longing to say yes. Finally, Harper gave a small nod. "Coffee." The cafe was cozy, windows fogged slightly from the lingering rain. They found a corner booth, the kind that made conversation feel private, tucked away. Harper sat with her arms resting on the table, eyes scanning the menu like it was written in code. Elena smiled. "What do you usually drink?" Harper's lips twisted. "Before, latte. Now, same." "Then a latte it is," Elena said brightly, rising to place their order. When she returned, Harper was gazing out the window, lost in thought. The soft lamplight caught strands of her auburn hair, making them glow. For a moment, Elena's breath caught. She set the cups down gently, forcing herself to focus on the steam curling from her drink. "Thank you," Harper said, the words halting but clear. "You're welcome." Elena took a sip, then leaned back. "So, music. You mentioned guitar. Do you still play?" Harper's fingers tapped the tabletop in a rhythm that seemed unconscious. "No." Hard. A pause. Then, "Miss it." Elena's heart ached at the honesty in her tone. "Maybe one day you'll pick it back up. Even if it's different than before, it's still yours." Harper looked at her then, really looked, studying her face as if searching for insincerity. Whatever she saw must have satisfied her, because her lips curved into the faintest smile. "You never stop." Elena tilted her head. "Stop what?" "Believing." Elena's cheeks warmed. "Someone has to." They fell into an easy silence, sipping their drinks. It wasn't like their sessions, filled with exercises and effort. Here, Harper seemed looser, her eyes softer, her voice, though still halting, tinged with humor when she teased Elena about her too neat handwriting on the notepad she always carried. By the time Harper's bus finally arrived, she hesitated at the door of the cafe, glancing back at Elena. "Good, coffee," she said, a hint of warmth in her voice. Elena smiled, watching her go, a flutter of something unnamed stirring in her chest. It wasn't part of therapy. It wasn't professional. But it felt like the beginning of something she wasn't sure she could resist. By the fifth session, Elena was beginning to recognize Harper's moods the way one learns the shifting weather. Today, Harper walked in with a set jaw and a quick, almost defiant stride. Her eyes flashed, daring anyone to pity her. Elena knew better than to meet fire with fire. She gestured to the chair with a calm smile. "Rough day?" Harper dropped into the seat, folding her arms. "Bad words," she muttered. Elena tilted her head. "Bad words as in swear words, or words that didn't want to come out today?" Harper gave her a sidelong look, lips twitching. "Both." Elena chuckled. "Fair enough. We'll try to focus on the second kind." They began with rhythm exercises, tapping out beats on the table, syncing words to breath. Harper stumbled at first, frustration rising, but Elena guided her gently, her voice patient, steady. When Harper finally strung together a clean, clear sentence, "I like the rain," the relief in her eyes was unmistakable. Elena's chest warmed. That was beautiful. Perfect rhythm, strong tone. Harper shook her head, dismissive. Ugly. Elena frowned. Not ugly. Strong. Brave. Their eyes met, and for a moment, something unspoken passed between them. Harper's gaze lingered longer than usual, as if trying to read Elena beyond her words. Elena felt the pull of it, the dangerous sweetness curling in her stomach. She forced herself to look back at the notes on her desk. Let's try again, she said briskly, her voice a little tighter than before. Later, as Harper packed up her things, she hesitated. Instead of leaving immediately, she leaned against the doorframe, her eyes narrowing. You're different, Harper said slowly. Elena blinked. Different how? You care. Not just job. Elena's throat tightened. She searched for the safe, professional answer. Of course I care about my clients. That's my job. But the words felt hollow. Because Harper was right, what she felt was not just professional. I care because you matter, Elena said softly. Not just as a client. As a person. Harper's lips parted, surprise flickering across her face. For a moment, the air between them hummed with something fragile, electric. Then Harper gave a half-smile, shaking her head as though retreating behind her walls again. Too nice, she muttered, and left. Elena sat back down at her desk, heart pounding. She knew the lines. She knew she shouldn't even be thinking about them. But the truth was undeniable, Harper wasn't just another client anymore. Harper arrived late. That was unusual, she was always punctual, almost stubbornly so. When she finally stepped into Elena's office, her shoulders were tense, her hair damp from the mist outside, and her eyes darker than usual, storm clouds rolling behind green glass. Sorry, Harper muttered, the word clipped, her voice uneven. She dropped into the chair, not meeting Elena's gaze. Elena studied her for a moment. Rough morning? Harper gave a sharp laugh, bitter, not amused. Morning. Week. Life. The words came halting, broken by pauses, but the meaning was sharp. They tried the usual exercises, breathing, repetition, sound drills. But Harper's frustration built quickly, spilling over like water pressing against a dam. She slammed her hand against the table when she couldn't get a word out. Stupid, she burst out, her voice ragged. Useless. Elena immediately set the cards aside, her calm unwavering. Harper, stop. You are not stupid. Harper's chest heaved, her eyes glassy. She pressed both hands to her temples as if she could wring the broken words from her skull. I was, me. Strong. Music. Talk. Now, half. Elena's heart ached at the rawness in her voice. She moved closer, slowly, careful not to startle her, and knelt beside the chair. Harper, she said softly, you're not half. You're still whole. Just, healing. Harper's lip trembled. For the first time, the fierce wall around her cracked wide open. Her breath came shallow, uneven, and a tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. Without thinking, Elena reached out and took her hand. Harper stiffened at first, her instinct always to pull back, but then her fingers curled around Elena's, gripping tightly. It wasn't just holding, it was clinging. The room fell into silence. No drills, no instructions, no ticking clock. Just two women breathing in the quiet, their hands linked, a current of something deep and unspoken flowing between them. Elena's pulse raced. She knew she should let go, remind herself of the rules, the ethics. But in that moment, she couldn't. Harper needed more than a therapist. She needed someone to see her, to remind her she wasn't broken. When Harper finally pulled her hand away, it was gentle, reluctant. She wiped at her cheeks and muttered, sorry. Don't apologize, Elena whispered, her throat tight. Harper gave her a long, unreadable look, half gratitude, half something else. Something Elena felt in her bones but dared not name. As Harper left that day, the lingering warmth of her hand stayed pressed against Elena's palm. It was just a handhold. Nothing more. And yet, Elena knew the line between them had shifted. Harper hesitated at the entrance to the small downtown gallery, her fingers twisting the strap of her bag. She hadn't planned on inviting anyone. Art was usually her solitary escape, but when she saw Elena's warm, expectant smile waiting outside, something in her heart shifted. "Hi," Elena said softly, noticing Harper's unease. "You look nervous." Harper's green eyes darted around the crowd inside the gallery. "I don't do this." Elena offered a reassuring smile. "Then we'll just walk slowly. Together." Inside, the walls were awash with color, oils, watercolors, photographs. For Harper, the art stirred memories of freedom, creativity, and a life before the stroke had made her feel trapped in her own body. She hadn't realized how much she'd missed someone noticing her, seeing her, without pity. They moved slowly through the exhibit, Harper trailing a little behind Elena, who noticed the way her shoulders relaxed when she wasn't performing for the world. Finally, they stopped before a canvas that seemed to shimmer with movement. Harper's fingers grazed the frame lightly. Her voice, hesitant, almost lost. "I used to paint. I stopped. Afraid it wouldn't be good." Elena tilted her head. "Afraid of failing?" Harper swallowed, nodding. "And afraid of being seen. Not whole." Elena stepped closer. "You are whole, Harper. Every scar, every pause, every struggle, it's part of who you are. And it's beautiful." Harper's lips quivered. She looked down at her hands, then back at Elena. You make me feel brave. Strong, again." Elena's heart tightened. "That's because you are brave. You've been fighting every day, and I've been lucky enough to watch." Harper's gaze softened, searching Elena's eyes as if to memorize the warmth and honesty reflected there. I'm scared. Of trusting. Of loving again. Afraid I will break or be left." Elena reached for her hand instinctively, letting it hover near Harper's. "I won't leave," she said firmly. "Not now. Not ever." For a moment, Harper simply let herself breathe in the truth of those words. The gallery around them faded, all that existed was the quiet space between their hands and the rapid beat of Harper's heart. "I like you," Harper whispered, each word halting but sincere. Elena smiled softly, brushing a strand of auburn hair behind Harper's ear. "I like you too." The confession hung between them, fragile and electric. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't a promise yet. But it was the start of something neither of them could ignore. As they left the gallery together, Harper's hand brushed Elena's almost accidentally, lingering just a second too long. A spark passed between them, bright, undeniable, and dangerously inviting. And for the first time, Harper didn't pull away. It was a late afternoon session. The sun had begun to dip, casting warm golden light across the therapy room. Harper sat across from Elena, her notebook open, her fingers tapping nervously. "Try this one," Elena said, sliding a card across the table. "Sentence repetition. Slowly, clearly." Harper's lips moved, halting, twisting around the sounds. She stopped mid-word, frustration flaring. "I can't do this." Elena leaned forward, voice gentle but insistent. "Yes, you can. You've done harder things before." Harper's hands clenched the edge of the table. "You don't understand." Elena's chest tightened. "I do. I know it's hard. That's why I'm here. With you." For a long moment, they just looked at each other, Harper's green eyes stormy, Elena's brown eyes steady, unwavering. The air between them thrummed with something neither dared to name. Harper's frustration melted into something softer, raw. She leaned forward impulsively, placing her hands on Elena's. "You always care, too much, she whispered. Elena's heart raced. She knew she should pull back, remind herself of the rules. But when Harper's eyes searched hers, full of vulnerability and longing, every caution vanished. Without thinking, Harper leaned closer, and their lips met. It was sudden, tentative, electric. A spark shot through Elena's chest, and for a heartbeat, the world outside the therapy room didn't exist. Harper pulled back slightly, eyes wide, cheeks flushed. I'm sorry, she whispered, voice trembling. Elena shook her head, her own lips still tingling from the kiss. No, she said softly. Don't apologize. The moment lingered. It wasn't reckless, it wasn't fully certain, but it was real. A bridge had been crossed, a boundary shifted. Harper's hand still gripped Elena's, tighter now, as if afraid the feeling could slip away. I can't hide it anymore, she said, barely audible. Elena's chest swelled with a mixture of fear and longing. You don't have to. Not with me. For the first time, the distance between them disappeared entirely. And though the future remained uncertain, one truth was undeniable: they were no longer just therapist and client. They were something more. The office felt colder without Harper's presence. Elena sat at her desk, hands clasped over her notebook, staring at the empty chair across from her. The memory of their kiss still burned against her lips, a mixture of thrill and guilt. She had done the right thing and given Harper space, but it hurt more than she expected. Every tick of the clock felt like a drumbeat counting down the hours until she could see Harper again, or perhaps the hours she might never see her that way. Harper, meanwhile, walked through her days with a mix of exhilaration and unease. Every time she passed Elena in her mind, she felt the warmth of that kiss, the steady reassurance in Elena's brown eyes, and a pang of fear that crossing that line had destroyed something fragile. When they finally met for the next session, the air was thick with unspoken words. Harper avoided Elena's gaze, her voice clipped, polite, professional. Hello. Ready for exercises? Elena swallowed, forcing a calm smile. Yes. Let's start. The session began mechanically, each word, each sound measured and careful. They didn't touch, didn't linger in the fleeting moments of connection that had once seemed natural. And yet, beneath the silence, the tension simmered. Every glance, every accidental brush of hands, carried weight. Each smile, even brief, sent pulses racing. During a pause, Harper's hand twitched as if reaching for Elena, but she pulled it back immediately. Her voice was barely audible. I miss it. You. Elena's heart clenched. I miss it too, she admitted softly, her own restraint cracking. But we need patience. Harper's eyes searched Elena's, stormy and vulnerable. I can't hide. Feel anymore. Elena took a deep breath. You don't have to. Not with me. We'll figure it out together. Though they didn't cross the line that day, the space between them shrank imperceptibly. The tension, the longing, the shared vulnerability, it all pulled them closer, even when they tried to keep distance. By the time Harper left, their hands brushed briefly, and neither pulled away. A spark lingered, a quiet promise that despite the rules, despite the fear, they were moving forward. The slow burn of desire, care, and trust stretched between them, unseen but undeniable. The clinic was quiet that morning, sunlight streaming through the windows in golden beams. Today was Harper's final session, her official graduation from therapy. She walked in with a mix of anticipation and nerves, clutching a small notebook tightly against her chest. Elena looked up from her desk, her smile soft but bright. Good morning, Harper. Ready for today? Harper nodded, her lips pressed together. She paused, then whispered, I have something. Elena's curiosity was piqued. A speech? She asked gently. Harper took a deep breath, glancing at the room as if seeing it for the first time through new eyes. Yes. For you. She opened the notebook, her fingers trembling slightly. Then, with a clear, deliberate voice, full of courage and emotion, she began. You gave me back my words, my confidence, my hope. But more than that, you gave me back my heart. You reminded me that I am whole, even when I felt broken. And that, sometimes, love comes when you least expect it, in the quietest of ways. Elena's chest tightened. She felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but she held them back, letting Harper speak. I, like you, Harper continued, her green eyes locking on Elena's. Not as a patient, not as someone I must impress, but as someone I want in my life. Someone I trust. Someone I love. The words hung in the air, tender and brave. Elena's breath caught, and for a moment, she could only stare. Then she stepped closer, closing the distance between them. I love you too, Elena whispered, her hands finding Harper's. I've loved you since the first day you walked into my office, and I was too careful, too scared to admit it. Harper's lips trembled into a smile. Scared, but happy? Elena nodded, brushing a strand of auburn hair behind Harper's ear. Terrified, but yes. Happier than I've been in a long time. And then, without another word, they leaned into each other. Their kiss was gentle, deliberate, full of the emotion they had both been holding back for months. It was a kiss that said everything: hope, trust, forgiveness, longing, and the promise of a shared future. When they finally pulled back, Harper rested her forehead against Elena's, her breathing steadying. We found our voice, she whispered. Elena smiled, heart swelling. Together. From that day forward, nothing was professional, nothing was cautious. They were simply two women in love, bound by vulnerability, courage, and the quiet magic of connection. The weeks after Harper's graduation felt like a new world opening. No longer bound by therapy rules, they could explore the connection that had been growing between them for months. Elena knocked on Harper's apartment door one Friday evening, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. Harper opened the door, her eyes lighting up the moment she saw Elena. Hey, Harper whispered, her voice full of warmth and mischief. Hey, Elena replied, smiling. Mind if I come in? Harper stepped aside, letting her in. The apartment was cozy, filled with soft light and Harper's favorite paintings leaning against the walls. For a moment, neither spoke. They just looked at each other, hearts beating in quiet sync. Elena took Harper's hands in hers. I don't want to hide this anymore. I don't want to hold back. I want us. All of it. Harper's lips trembled into a smile. Me too. Scared, yes. But, no more hiding. They kissed again, slow and certain, tasting months of longing and restraint. In that moment, the world outside faded. All that existed was them, their shared laughter, trust, and love. Time passed, and their relationship deepened. They learned each other's rhythms, fears, and joys. Harper's speech continued to strengthen, but now her confidence extended to all parts of her life. Elena cheered her on at every milestone, and Harper's warmth filled Elena's days with laughter, music, and love. They traveled together, tried new things, and found joy in the simplest moments: cooking dinner, late-night walks, quiet conversations that stretched into the early morning. Their love wasn't perfect, but it was real, grounded in patience, honesty, and unwavering care. One evening, sitting on Harper's balcony with the city lights sparkling below, Harper rested her head on Elena's shoulder. We found each other, she murmured. Elena kissed her temples softly. We found our voices. And now we speak them together. They held each other close, hearts in sync, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as one. Love had arrived quietly, persistently, and beautifully, and now it was theirs to live fully, without fear, without boundaries, only trust and devotion. Turn on notifications bell to never miss a story. Share your thoughts in the comments, we love hearing from our viewers.